Hello everybody, this is a 2003 Ford Escape, and if you have this car and you need to replace the rear exhaust manifold, it is quite an involved process, especially for the 3.0 liter engines. If you have exhaust leak, you can do two checks. One, make sure none of these are leaking. EGR tube going down to the exhaust manifold, make sure that is tight. And also there's new gasket here, make sure that is good. Then you need to go down and we have to remove a few things. First, you're going to remove the cover. Then you're going to remove your CV axle out. To remove the CV axle, you're going to need to remove lower ball joint, outer tie rod end, and of course the axle nut. The axle comes out. Now for this vehicle, the axle is a two-piece axle. So the front of the axle comes out. Then you have to remove a half shaft that looks like this, mounted with two bolts right underneath the alternator, right there. Remove those and you get yourself axle removed. Next, you're going to need to remove alternator. To remove that, you're going to need to use this tensioner here to remove the belt from the alternator. And then there are two bolts here, access from that to get the alternator bolts out. Then you're going to need to remove the actual downpipe and the oxygen sensors. Once you unplug that, you will get a lot of room down here to see what's going on underneath there. Now this particular car had the job done previously. You can see the downpipe looks replaced. The front manifolds look like they were replaced. The rear manifolds looks like they're replaced. But there's still exhaust leak. So I'm going to have to go and see if it's defective manifold with bad welds or the gasket didn't seat properly. Also notice the outer tire end boots torn out. I got the alternator out of the way and I already see the problem. You see that bolt? See the gap between the bolt and the manifold? Yeah. So what happens in this situation is the gasket is not metal. It's one of those textured gasket. And when it's loose like this, the exhaust pressure goes through the manifold and the gasket and burns it out. So most likely I'm going to end up taking it out and putting a new gasket in there. That's what it looks like. So not installed properly. Anyway, to remove the exhaust manifold, you can use this section here to run your extension and open some bolts, and some you have no choice but to reach in from here. It is a little bit of time consuming work, but that's what it takes. That's what I'm going to try. So you got the manifold disconnected and you can see where the smoke is leaking from. That little, I think it's the cylinder number 3. That gasket was not seated properly. Cylinder number 4 also has a problem where the gasket was not seated properly. So I'm gonna put new gaskets in there and let's see. You see that? And that one. Now, those two bolts are easy to access. You can use longer extension, universal joint, and get to it. This bolt here is right at the neck of the catalytic converter, and you'll have to use small wrench and go at it little at a time. Everything else comes out with a power tool. So it's quite a lengthy process. Take your time. That one also can be accessed with the machine. But this run right here had no fastener on it. So apparently I need to put a new fastener on it. Let's see. To get the catalytic converter installed, I'm not going to pull my converter out. I'm just going to install a new gasket, push this guy back in, and rebolt it. So I just got the catalytic converter put back together. Your completed job should look something like this, where your alternator is mounted back up, 3 bolts, belt back on, the covers down here, axle nut is installed, tie rod end installed, ball joint is plugged in, and there's a brace right here. This brace, this long one, you have to remove that. You don't need to remove the entire subframe. It's connected with 2 bolts here, 2 on the other side, and you should be able to get it out of there. So when you install gaskets on this, guys, you have to make sure you install a better gasket. The reason I did not tighten just the bolts that was loose and call it a day is because this 2-piece gasket, that ceramic material completely gone. So this 2-piece gasket was under a lot of exhaust pressure, and all of the ceramic material got washed off. You can see the gaskets torn up. So if I had just simply tightened the loosened bolt and call it a day, it wouldn't have worked. I would have caused myself more problems. So this was actually this is how the gasket was mounted. This is the side that was not tight, that caused it. Customer brought me this gasket here. So it is better gasket, but then I prefer metal gasket. That's even better. So that's the one for the front, because the set has 2 of them in there. I did not touch the front. I only replaced the rear. The EGR one right here. There's a trick to installing the EGR tube. What you're going to do is you're going to hand tighten the tube onto the exhaust manifold. Do not fully torque it down. Come back up, put the tube back into this side, hand tighten it, and then go back and completely final torque it down. After you've done a final torque on your EGR tube, the actual exhaust manifold bolts, like I mentioned, all of them are easy to access with a longer extension and torque wrench if you want. But the only one on the second cylinder, the middle one, they bolt so close to the inlet that you cannot put socket on it. So how I did it is I removed all 4 of them, and then I started loosening the one bolt that was very close to the exhaust manifold flange, and as I opened the bolt, I moved the flange forward, allowing me more room to remove that bolt. I don't know if this is the problem with the aftermarket manifold I have, or this is something original to Ford issue. Anyway, I'm going to start it, see if we have any noise.